Gordy Gundaker has called for a rule change to the World of Outlaws late model series where he wants to see fighting normalized to settle disputes rather than having a green flag wide open retaliations. Roll this up over at stockcarreport.com. You can find the link in the description below. Gundaker made his suggestion on a recent episode of the Dirt Parlor podcast where they had guest Ashton Winger joining them. And Winger was the one who actually brought up the topic. He said this: I tell everybody, I'm not saying that I don't need it because I probably would get it, but a lot of stuff would probably get fixed by somebody getting punched in the mouth. And I'm not saying I wouldn't probably be on the wrong side of that sometimes. So then they kind of exchanged anecdotes going back and forth. Gordy kind of shared some, they both shared anecdotes from the Prairie Dirt Classic, an encounter with Shane Clanton. Winger shared one with Tyler Bruning from back in 2022, etc. And then Gundaker shared one that he had with Tanner English at Clarksville, where the two were involved in a wreck, and English promised he would get his revenge. It eventually boiled over at Brownstown in Illinois, where English threw a slider on Gordy that caused him to pancake the wall. Following the race, Gordy marched down to English's hauler and informed his dad, listen, we're going to sell this right now, and it's going to be done with. When he arrived at English's hauler, he shared that he was already out of breath, but once English spotted him, he made a beeline to him. A wrestling match ensued when English slipped in a hole as he was about to kind of, I would assume, throw the first punch. However, the wrestling match expanded when Steve Lampley, Kevin Gundaker, English's brother-in-law, Rodney Melvin, and a couple more joined in and formed a dog pile. However, following the incident, the two were able to bury the hatchet. This is what Gordy says. He says, we got up, me and Tanner didn't talk for like a month, but we never hit each other. And then like a month later, we're like, yeah, like, F it, we're over this. I'm glad we got that out of the way. It's for the best. But my dad, his old man, they raced together, and that's how they used to take care of crap. You had to deal with the repercussions if you wanted to run somebody over. So he obviously is pointing to this anecdote to advocate for this rule change because he and English were able to kind of bury the hatchet after they decided to fight each other, right? And they did recognize that they needed to race each other a little bit better, and that's what they did, and they were able to bury it, and they moved on, and it kind of solved the problem rather than maybe creating a cycle of revenge, right? Where you can, they just keep retaliating during a race, right? So Gundaker then took issue with how the rules are currently enforced in situations like this, is what he said. Now they're like, well, if you hit somebody under yellow, or if you hit them in the pit area, or you go down and fight them, you're thrown out. But if you run in there wide ass open under green and you KO this guy's crap, all good. What sense does that make? It makes absolutely none. He's absolutely right. It makes absolutely no sense that would be allowed. He went on and said, you would think a guy like Series Director Steve Francis, World of Outlaws Series Director Steve Francis, would understand that, but they just don't change the rule. They leave it. Well, if it happens under green, there's nothing we can do about it. But God knows if you're going 10 miles an hour and you go up and rub his door, you're DQ'd. I just wish they would go get back to some of that. I'm not saying we should have open fight night every night we go racing, but damn, if a guy walks down there and socks somebody because he run him over and destroyed his crab, we probably should just let that go. Hey, it was good TV. They're going to market it. They're going to put it out there and put it on social media soon as the video comes out, and they're going to be cheering it on, but we're going to DQ you and take your money for doing it. So he obviously wants that changed. I think we've seen some interesting innovations with this. I think it was like a couple months ago. There was a fight circling. I forget which track it was, but they were basically incentivizing drivers to fight on the front stretch instead of trying to retaliate in the car. And it seemed to work out pretty well. I mean, there was two guys that went at each other. Not sure exactly what happened after that, but hopefully something similar happened with Gordy and Tanner English, and they were able to bury the hatchet and moved on, and you didn't get, like I said, that cycle of revenge. I do think there probably needs to be something done about this. I've kind of advocated for this in the past. Need to do something like that, like we saw there. It needs to be something similar to hockey, where it's just the drivers going at it. You want to keep the dog piling that Gordy described there out of it. I don't think you want any of the crew guys or family members or et cetera getting involved. Keep it between the two drivers and let them settle it. Try to keep everyone else out of it. Obviously, hockey, sometimes you do have a line brawl, and then in rare instances, especially nowadays, you might have a bench brawl. but usually it's between the two guys, usually the enforcer type guys, and it's usually trying to get some momentum changed for your team when it's maybe going the wrong way, right? So I could see something like that happening with racing across the board, not just obviously in dirt late models. And I think it would probably solve a lot of problems where you might see some retaliation later on or whatever, if you know that you can just kind of settle it after the race or whatever, and just deal with it there rather than dealing with it on the track, because you don't want someone dealing with it on the track when they are, as he says, going wide open and trying to intentionally take someone out. I think that is absolutely wrong. But we have seen some. I think it was the World of Outlaws. They obviously suspended, or I think it was Lucas actually. I think it was Lucas where they suspended Cade Dillard after he retaliated against Garrett Alberson when they were wide open. So we have seen some enforcement on that, but I would be interested to see what they come up with in trying to maybe incentivize the fight in the front stretch or whatever. But you don't want that to happen every night. And obviously not every night you're going to have someone trying to retaliate, right? There's a lot of times where it's green all the way and it's just a great race, great sliders, great passing, just fantastic racing. And no one is getting their feelings hurt. There isn't anything where like there's a tight slider and you're kind of pushing the guy up into the wall or anything like that. And you just have a great, fantastic race. But I would be interested to see what they do here. I like where Gordy's mind at is here, but let me know what you guys make of this. What kind of innovative, interesting ideas do you have? Do you think this is something that should happen? What are your issues with the current way things are enforced? Let me know in the comments below.